not having the best day, but I wanted to answer a question I received, and I typed it out, but I still felt like it was rather insufficient, so I wanted to make sure I really answered it because it's a subject that's really important to me, and it is how to get IV fluids, and specifically the question was, how do I receive my IV fluids at home? I believe that getting at least 2 liters of IV fluids every week for a POTSI is very important, especially a POTSI who is not well managed. If you're doing well with your POTS and you know how to make things work and you don't need the IV fluids, that's awesome. One less thing to do. But I think for a lot of us, the medications are not enough a lot of the time. And we let ourselves get very worn down and get to a point that we're in the hospital. And so when I saw Dr. Grubb, I talked to him about how I wished I could be preemptive and not wait till I was in the ER every 2 weeks or every week, depending on what time. At first it was every week, then we got me down to every 2 weeks. I was having an emergency where we'd go running to the ER because I'd be almost unresponsive and really, really bad. So he said, well, why aren't your doctors writing a prescription for weekly IV fluids in an infusion center? And I said, well, they've never done that before, and so they didn't know what to do, and they just didn't feel comfortable writing it. And he just kind of looked at me like, I hear that so much. And he just pulled out his fountain pen and wrote me a prescription for 2 liters of saline every week. So I didn't have my port at the time, so I had to go to the infusion center. Here in America, you have to, if you're getting IV fluids in an IV, a peripheral IV that your nurse comes and places at home, you're considered homebound. So that means, or wherever, I'm just pointing my hand, but wherever you would get your peripheral IV, it's considered homebound. So that means you can go to your doctor's appointments, you could go to the emergency room if you would have an emergency, and technically they can't tell you you can't go to church, but you're not supposed to be going to school. You can't go shopping, absolutely cannot go shopping. You can't go to a friend's house. You can't go to outpatient physical therapy. You can't do anything. You have to truly be homebound, because that's why you're requesting the service, which is legitimate. So for me, I would go to the infusion center, and this was great at first. It was amazing because I wasn't going to the ER. But then it was still like, well, I'm still going out, and that's a day wasted, because going out, even though I'm getting these fluids, is exhausting. And I got my mediport, and then I was like, I know there's a way for me to learn to access my mediport. I know people do it all the time. So I started to ask around about that. Dr. Grubb wrote the order, sent it to my PCP, who saw, okay, a doctor is prescribing this, he just rewrote the exact same order, and at that point we'd switched to D5. Actually, that had been Dr. Awesome because of a diagnosis that we thought we had, but I didn't end up having it. We just left it to D5 normal saline, which is 5% dextrose. So we just left it. We didn't bother switching it back. I like the saline. It's not a big deal. My PCP worked very hard for me, with mostly her nurses obviously did a lot of the work, but my PCP very readily agreed, and her nurses helped me, and we both researched. I called my insurance company. They said that was fine, and I learned that if I'm learning to access my central line that I already have, I'm not considered homebound, and the nurses can come multiple times and still not be considered homebound, because it's a different coding, because I have the line. They're not putting a peripheral line in me. I'm not sure what the coding is if I was going to have them come access my port at home and I wasn't learning. I'm assuming I would be considered homebound, because they would be a continued service. And I've been homebound many times, and I hate it. So this was an amazing solution for me. So now what we have to do, this was kind of the main part of the question, long story short. This is for, I think it's PotsInfo. PotsInfo's question. And sorry, brain fog. Oh yes, so what my PCP's nurses and I worked on, particularly the nurses, they were wonderful. They contacted my medical supply company, which gives me my feeds, my pump, my bag, my feeding bags, my extra syringes, my tape, wrong side, my tape. And she called them, and they contact their pharmacy, and they work together, and they basically get a big box together and send it through UPS, and it has my saline on in kind of like a cool pack, kind of on ice. It doesn't need to be refrigerated, but just for hot days or whatever, it's kept in kind of a controlled box climate. The pharmacy and the medical supply company work together. They might even be like the same. I really am not sure, but and then they also send me a sterile kit, which includes a sterile field, sterile gloves, and the whole kit inside is sterile. Dressing for my fort, a tape measure for PICC lines. What else is in that kit? Skin prep, skin cleaner, and then in the box they also send me alcohol swabs, like little wipes. I mean, they send me. I had to request clean gloves. I was like, well, I'm de-accessing too, and my sterile gloves are done, and I don't even need sterile to de-access, but you do need gloves on. So pull the needle out of the line going to your heart. So I had to ask for some. I didn't even have some the first time. My nurse gave me some. I would have really been kind of in a bad place. And what else did they send me? Oh, obviously, the Huber needle, heparin locks, and saline locks. Saline locks are just the flushes, and heparin locks it's the final thing you do, right? So you saline lock it, you heparin lock it, you de-access, and you saline lock, or you saline flush. It's not really, it's a lock when you're done. So they send me flushes, which can be a lock or a flush. It's the same amount, I think it's 10 cc's, and then 5 cc's of the heparin. So they send me those. They send me, oh, there's also a mask in the sterile kit, and the Huber needle, I already said. Caps. You have to get a cap on the Huber needle. And what else? Obviously the tubing for the for spiking the bag. Gosh, I'm trying to think what else they send. I think that's basically the gist of it. Sorry, I'm really out of it. So yeah, it comes in a couple big boxes, and they gave me a second IV pole. And they gave me one without wheels, and I was like, I kind of need one with wheels, so they sent me. So I'll have 3 IV poles. I have the one up here, and then I wanted one for downstairs. So the one I have, you guys have seen the one up here. I have the same one downstairs. And just a rundown on, if you do have a mediport or you're interested in getting a mediport, it's sometimes tricky with just POTS, I've found, for me, to get a doctor willing to write a script for one without more of a diagnosis than POTS. Because I think when people think mediport, they think you need to be getting some intense medication. I originally got my line because of a different diagnosis. They thought I had mitochondrial disease. They were 100% sure. And I was going to need it for certain kind of amino acids that you can only put in a central line. Also, I really needed it for my POTS IV fluids. My neurologist was okay with me getting it no matter what, but it wasn't her decision. So I did get my port, and Dr. Grubb will write you a script for a mediport for just POTS all day long if you need it. I needed a port regardless because my veins were shot. I had to run a bag in 3 hours of just normal saline. I wasn't even starting the D5 yet, which I don't even think would make a difference, but it took me a very long time to run a bag. And it hurt, and they would blow, and they would infiltrate, and if I was in the hospital, you had to have something running in it 24/7 or it clot off as fast as 5 or 10 minutes, and it was really tricky to get them unclotted, if you could get them unclotted at all. So, I wasn't the trickiest stick in the world, but I didn't keep my lines well, and it was getting worse and worse every time, and it was going to happen every week because I was starting infusions. So, yeah, it just wasn't wasn't going to work for much longer, so we went ahead. I was having a surgery anyway, so they went ahead and put my line at the same time, which was awesome. So here's my mediport for those of you who haven't seen it before, seen it in a while. Here is the port itself. The hub is very small. It's a smart port. They tunnel. I have a subclavian tunneling, which is this small scar right here. So they tunnel into your heart, and then they tunnel back under to my port and then connect the two. So you can see the catheter. Just kind of popping up a little bit. I love my port, and I'm very happy with it. And I'll make a video sometime of me accessing my port. You open up your sterile field, you drop your sterile contents onto your sterile field, you might get your Huber needle, you get your cap, you drop those on, you drop your saline flush on without touching anything inside because it's all sterile inside the packaging. Then you get your sterile gloves, you open them, you've washed your hands first before you touched anything with soap and water, turn it off with your elbow. Don't use use like a paper towel, which still isn't like that great, but it's better than nothing. You're in your own home, it's your own germs, it's a little better. You open up your sterile gloves, you slide your hands in, pull down the fold, same thing with the other side, even though you have a sterile hand on, still touch the fold. Roll them down. Now after that, you do not touch your shirt, you do not touch anything except for what is inside of your sterile field. Nothing. You've also already opened alcohol swabs, because the outside of the alcohol swab packaging, again, is not sterile. And even though it's alcohol with your fingers, try not to touch it. Just try not to touch anything you can. Keep it as clean and as sterile as possible. There's a difference between clean and sterile. Clean is what you do when you de-access. You have clean gloves out of the box. Sterile is sterile, absolutely no germs. Operating room is sterile. Putting an IV in is clean. Believe it or not. Well, it's sterile in a way, because they sterilize your skin, but they're only using clean gloves, so it's not a completely sterile procedure. Mask. Your mask goes on first. You don't, once you have your sterile gloves on, unless you've dropped your mask in your field, sterile field, without touching it, that's fine. But if you're getting the mask separately from a clean environment, you can't touch it with your sterile hands. That's a little stressful at first. So yeah, you've done that. And then you've got your sterile hands. Again, don't touch anything. You should have already spiked your bag and primed your tubing. You do that by squeezing the thing, bubbling it up, letting it run all the way through, clamping it again. You have your sterile hands, you gloves on, you take your cap, you put it on your Huber needle, you clean off the blue hub. I do it anyway, even though it's already in a sterile field. I just do it anyway with your alcohol swabs. You take off your cap and off your saline, and you just flush it a little bit until you prime your tubing between your needle and your saline lock over here. So you just, I'm sorry, my saline's in this hand. Saline flush to your needle. And until it runs out. You still have your cap on your needle. It has an opening. Then you clean your skin for 60 seconds. You have 3 sticks. Do 1 stick for like 20 seconds, 1 stick for 20 seconds, and then let it dry after a minute of cleaning. When you're waiting for it to dry, you know, grab your needle, get it ready, organize yourself, make sure you're all set in your mirror. Take your needle, grab your port, push it in straight, right in the center. For me, it's like right here. And make sure you're holding your port really hard. Flush it a little bit. If it doesn't flush, you can still check for a blood return, but you're not going to get one. And then pull back. If you have blood return, scream and shout. If you flush it, but no blood return, just jiggle it around, pull it out, push it, you know, not the whole way, but like move it. Blood return. Then tape it all up after you've flushed it the whole way. Once it's taped, you can remove your mask, your gloves, everything. It's just whatever. You can do whatever now. And that's it. So that is home accessing. To convince doctors to do it, I don't know. My one doctor isn't happy that I'm doing this, but it wasn't her decision. and she usually lets me make whatever decisions I want, even if she's not happy about it. I think it just makes her sad that I'm stabbing a huge needle into my chest. But I'm very happy I'm doing it, and now I can get my fluids, and then I can go out, because I haven't used my going out energy yet, because I've still been at home all day and not at the hospital. And I'm getting it twice a week now. Not quite as good as Nina's 5 to 7, but pretty exciting. So yeah, 2 liters every 10. If we can get straightened out. Right now it's like kind of messed up, but I think the way to convince doctors is to just tell them explain the difference you feel. Blood pressure's low before, it's higher after. My heart rate's high before, it's lower after. I can stand up without passing out. I can do more. It lasts for this long. Say for you, maybe it lasts 4 days. So say I really need it twice a week. Explain the quality of life it will give you. Explain that this is your life, and this is, my pump's gonna beep. You are just trying to do the best you can, and live each day to your fullest. And if this is something that you need to do to get the fullest and the most out of every day, then you need them to do it for you. Because you do not like lying around in bed, and you know that doctors hate when you hear that you're lying around in bed, because they think that we need to be up. I want to be up. I don't know about you guys. I know you all want to be up. I know you do. We hate bed. I'm sitting in mine right now, and I'm not a big fan of it. But I've had a busy morning, and I'm okay. And I'm still sitting up. My feet are up, but it's okay. I'm going to get my pump. Then I'm going to continue my tirade. There. I heard it was about to beep. It's making that beeping, pre-beeping sound. I moved too quickly. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, it's hard. It's hard to convince them to say stuff, it's just hard to convince them. Because it's just not something common. But, I've heard that a lot of you have awesome doctors. I know I'm very blessed with awesome doctors, and, I've not met a whole lot of resistance with this, and, once I started the process, once Dr. Grab got me the script and said, no, this is something I legitimately do, I was like, really? I didn't know that. No one else knew that either. None of my doctors have known that. Like, it's just not something you hear of. And if all you can do is the infusion center, don't think I took care of the problem. I think it's going to beep again. If all you can do is an infusion center and that works for you, it worked for me for a long time, and I was very happy with it. And I don't know what everyone's homebound status is. I'm talking about my insurance in America. That's how it is for me, and I'm pretty sure it's that way for most insurances, but I really don't know. So check out your insurance. Just give them a call. There's a number on the back of your insurance card with like member services or something. I don't have my card nearby me. It's over there. I don't feel like getting up off my bed to get my bag. But on the back of the card, your insurance card, it should have a member services number. You can call and just say, hey, I have a question. And what status is for home fluids? What status is for this? What status for that? Is there any way I could, will you cover this? And then go to your doctor with all this information and say, hey, I can get this covered. Will you write a script for it? Sometimes PCPs are really willing to write stuff like this. I've had some really great PCPs as well. So, but do understand from their point of view how weird of a thing this is. It's not common for them to write IV hydration when you're not dehydrated. So I think that's where the confusion is, and it's not completely understood by a lot of doctors why this helps us. To me, it kind of makes sense in a lot of ways, but that's because we're living it, and that's why it makes sense to us. So yeah, I'm just trying to give them a break because I know they're trying really hard for us. There goes my beeping. Very annoying machine. I love you guys. Bye.